Jake, I want to go from one end of the Iron Bowl to the other and talk about Auburn in 2023. Of course, something that's near and dear to you. But I want to know, in year one, Hugh Freeze era, there's already tremendous excitement. There's already been tremendous success in terms of getting commits and flipping commits from high-profile commits from rivals like Georgia and rivals like Alabama for Hugh Freeze and company there, that Auburn staff. But what does on-the-field success look like in year one? What is realistic, and what makes this a successful year for Auburn?
Yeah. Well, I think there's multiple ways to look at it, but it's kind of a multi-dimensional situation, right? I think one thing that makes Auburn dangerous and has shown you, and not lately against Georgia, but one of the reasons Auburn can run with Bama and run with Georgia and be kind of more consistent against these teams is that, the standard at Auburn is very high. I mean, you could say it's borderline unrealistic, but the minute that standard gets lowered, you have lost. You have no chance. You're already fighting uphill at Auburn. You're not the state school like Alabama or Georgia. And it just we happen to be in a time where Georgia's operating at its highest peak, as Alabama just got done operating at their highest peak, as I can remember, and obviously since I've been alive. But, I think when it comes down to being realistic, especially year one with a new coaching staff after the Harsin hostage crisis for the last couple of years is finally over. To me, 8-4 and above, obviously, would be fantastic. I think this team's ceiling, if everything went right, best case scenario, they could go 9-3. I think it falls on 8-4 or 7-5. I think if it's going to be 7-5, or even the floor, which I think is 6-6, it needs to be the right 7-5 or the right 6-6. I mean, you look at the non-conference, right? Cal's the toughest team you play, and you should win that game on the road, even though Justin Wilcox has been there forever. So if you could go 4-0 in the non-conference, if you could beat the Mississippi schools at home, which Auburn has been pretty consistent against the Mississippi schools at home, there's 6 right there. You beat Vanderbilt on the road, there's 7. And then the question becomes, can you split one of at A&M or Arkansas or Georgia and Alabama? Now, I don't think Auburn has the cats right now in the depth to run with Georgia. That Auburn-Alabama game, that Iron Bowl rivalry, we've seen crazy things happen. And I think this roster at Auburn on the offensive line has probably been where Hugh Freeze has done his best work. That gives you at least a chance. We'll see how good the pass rush is. That's the biggest question I have for Auburn when it comes down to what's going to make the difference maybe in those couple of wins. And we're just going to have to wait to see when new defensive coordinator Ron Roberts. But what it would mean was if you could go the right 7-5 or 8-4, look, all this talking is great, right? You sit the guys down, hey, this is what we're going to build here. Auburn's going to be back to where, scary Auburn was, dark Auburn was. But until they see it on the field, with all the NIL stuff, right? Until they see it on the field, it's going to be very hard to sell it over time. So if you can continue to show progress, you get to that 8-win mark. You get to that right 7-5 win mark with that new facility, right? When Auburn is all aligned behind each other, then I think you can really keep this momentum that we've seen preseason, in recruiting, flipping Riddick, flipping Perry Thompson, getting the TJ Lindsey's, looking like you're getting the Drake Carters. Cam Franklin's still out there, even though he committed to Ole Miss. That vindicates a lot of the stuff that you were saying when you took over the job. So, number one, you never want to water down the standard. You never want to be just happy with 7-5 or 8-4. But in that same vein, you can be realistic and see what's getting built. And that lemonade tastes a lot different when you go 8-4 or 7-5 in that first year compared to year 3 or year 4.
And you just got to look at the schedule too. Like it's a little bit of a bad break for Hugh Freeze year one here, because they got to go to Kyle Field, they got to go to Baton Rouge, and oh, by the way, we're going to sandwich Georgia in between those 2 games. Plus, you have a bye week. But I put my game by game schedule prediction video out on Southeastern 14 today as we're recording this. I got Auburn winning the first 3, and then I got them losing 3 in a row to Texas A&M, Georgia, and LSU. But then I got them getting hot and finishing out the rest of the year with only 1 loss after, and that would be actually I got them winning out, I think, because I got them one loss because they're 8-4 on the year, but I got them winning the Iron Bowl.
Dude, you got the exact same, bro. We got the exact same. That's exactly how I have it. That's exactly how I see it. Here's the thing. Here's the thing
At
about Auburn.
Arkansas was the loss. At Arkansas, I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
gonna be
what I
tough.
got. That's what I got. Here's the thing about Auburn. The schedule is always going to suck. Congrats, you're at Auburn. Like that's why when they have the 3 permanent rivals. Obviously, it's going to be Georgia. It's going to be Bama. So I mean, damn, that's a horrible start. Gotta give Auburn Vandy, right? That's the only way. But you still play LSU, right? So Auburn's schedule, I look at it like this: road or home against Georgia and Bama. That's going to be because every year, it's not like, hey, you play one on the road, you play one at home. It's you're either going to Athens and Tuscaloosa, or you get them both at home. So if you're able to sneak one year 2, that does make it tough. Obviously, you would get LSU at home. Now, we got to see the schedules, obviously, and the way it works out, if there's any shifting there. But, at Auburn, man, the schedule always sucks, like, just to be honest with you. I'm so used to it now.
Yeah, I was going to ask, does this job in 2024 go from the hardest job in America, which I think Auburn is right now? I think Auburn is the hardest college football job in America because of having to play Georgia every year, being in the SEC West year in and year out. I mean, it's just ridiculously tough, and the reasons you mentioned, the recruiting battles. But does this job become a significantly even better job for Hugh Freeze in year 2 of his tenure? Because now, yes, you're still going to have to play the permanent rivals, but some of those other teams are going to get mixed around a little bit. And now, hey, maybe everybody else is having to catch the brunt of that a little bit more too in the conference.
Yeah, well, if you look at Auburn's, if you look at Auburn's schedule in 2024, I mean, I think they caught a break with it. When you look at some of the other team schedules, it's going to be a breath of fresh air. But I'll say this, Blayne, and this is what I've said about the new scheduling format with no divisions. I love it. I've been saying this for 5 years because the whole point of a conference championship is to get the 2 best teams in the conference to play each other. There's no such thing as an even schedule where everybody plays the same difficulty level of a schedule. That doesn't exist. Teams go up and down. The whole point of scheduling is you keep the top rivalries there. You have to, right? It's smart from a branding standpoint, tradition standpoint, financial and monetary standpoint. And then you can play everybody at home and on the road in a 4-year career. That should be the whole goal. That's the whole point. And I always hear people say, oh, well, and I call them periphery rivalries, the rivalries that aren't as big as the biggest one, but are still important. You still play those teams every now and then. It's not like you never play them again, right? It's not like, Georgia doesn't play Ole Miss for 30 years or something like that. But they talk about the rivalries that are lost. How about the ones that are created? Think about all the rivalries that are going to be created by this. Now that you have to play everybody home and away through a 4-year schedule. So we always... And I think that's a natural human reaction. You think about the things you lost, not the things that you can gain in most situations. So I like it. There's a reason everybody's going to it. Look at the Big Ten right now. Look at the Big Ten West compared to the Big Ten East. We've seen this in the SEC where one side's been way better than the other. The top 3 teams in the Big Ten are all in the same division. It's better in the long run, and I think it is the most even way to do it in a world where nobody's schedule will ever be even across the board.
Oh yeah, but my point is if let's say Auburn does get those 8 wins that you and I both think they'll get this year, the momentum that could carry for recruiting, and then plus the benefit that we're talking about, how they're catching a little bit of a break in 24 and the schedule gets a little bit easier with that momentum behind them. Man, I think Hugh Freeze could be off to a hot start. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
They beat Bama, Blayne. There won't be enough toilet paper in the Southeast. There'll be a paper shortage, a TP shortage, which is horrifying if you really think about it.
Yeah, Jeff Foxworthy had the old joke. He was watching on the rainforest, and he said that the rainforest is being depleted by so much paper, and he goes, "It's us. We use too much TP," because he's got 5 girls at home. Hilarious stuff, Jeff Foxworthy. Good stuff there.
Truth.